Hello, it's me, Pony. Debbie Hoops here. Martial art fruit user is currently asleep due to, well, he said, working hard on Fallout Equestria Sins of an Alicorn to make sure it doesn't suck. Well, while he's sleeping, I guess I'll do the introduction for the next for this Secret Fandom Fridays. So, as you might know, coming soon this week, we have something really special. Somebody in a blue box is coming back to the TV screen, and we get to see a new doctor. Yep, Dr. Who's coming back. Yay! So I bet we're all curious as to how Cabaldi is going to work out, if he's going to be anywhere near as awesome as 4 or 7. So Martial Arts Fruit user decided, thanks, Dorothy. You're welcome. Is that a hick? No, it's not a hickey. No, despite what you may think, Derpy. Now you go back with the rest of the Universe cast and start acting for new scenes here. Remember, we still got Helping Hands to handle. Are you kidding? We have at least 24 more. We got at least 23 more episodes to go through on this little season of yours. Not to mention some of the movies. And yeah, Tracy, I know. We got a lot of work to do and a lot of stories to tell. But let me handle this. So yes, welcome back to Fandom Fridays. And I was trying to figure out exactly what I'm going to read today. Well, I thought for a while, maybe I should do a read of just a normal Doctor Who story, but I figured, who wants to do that when there's plenty of audiobooks for that already? And I try not to do anything that's been repeated. So what else to do? Well, I'm still in a Buffy mood, so yes, we're doing a Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Doctor Who crossover today. Today's fic, Froofy dresses, and Nitro 9. I hope you all enjoy today's reading. Thank you. Froofy Dresses and Nitro 9 by ShalaDikri. Fate. Destiny. How much is set and how much is fluid. Sometimes, all it takes is a small wobble for everything to change. Oh, it might not be obvious at first. Maybe it'll take months or even years for the changes to be truly felt. Or it might be not so subtle, no one ever notices the change. Just a little detour that quickly returns to the regularly scheduled program. Sometimes, an event proves so influential it becomes a catalyst. A fixed point that happens in virtually every version of a particular world, even if the details of that event change drastically. In one corner of the multiverse, where vampires that burst into dust are hunted by teenage warrior girls, one of these points formed around a night of chaos, a change, a small wobble, beginning with 3 friends hijacked into a not-so-volunteer community service, and a shopkeeper with a talent for mayhem, spun off 100, dozen, 1,000 different futures, causing even time and space to twist into knots. Sometimes, wobbles take time before the tangles prove that they are, indeed, knotted. Buffy glared at the retreating would-be vandals until they vanished around a corner, then at the canisters she confiscated. She stopped them before they could leave graffiti on the fence, but now she had to dispose of the spray can before taking the kids back. With her luck, Snyder would catch her with them and give her detention, despite not being on school grounds. Unfortunately, it seemed no one wanted to leave trash cans out on a night known for pranks, and nearest dumpsters were blocks away. Suppressing her irritation at the interruption and the wigs she lost in the scuffle, Buffy plastered on a, hopefully, reassuring smile for the kids. How about we try the houses across the street, okay? Her smile felt a bit forced at the instant agreements. Before they reached the street, they froze as something seemed to press on in her mind. Foreign thoughts intruded, summoned her way out of her way, and blocking into a corner of her mind. Ace blinked a few times, wondering what happened to the painter, in the studio. The doctor wasn't anywhere nearby, but at least he had Nitro 9 canisters. She looked around her surroundings. The houses looked like the ones she'd seen on American TV shows, decorated for Halloween, and cars had been parked on the wrong side of the street. The whole effect ruined, though, by crashes and screams that they sound like didn't come from speakers. and discarded pillowcases and pumpkin-shaped buckets on the ground. Something about this seemed vaguely familiar, but first things first. Grabbing one of the pillowcases to make her explosives easier, Ace took off toward the screaming. She needed to find the professor, and she lay odds that he would be in the middle of whatever was causing problems. She didn't get far before she caught a flash of color that didn't quite belong in some bushes. Not seeing anyone else nearby, she cautiously went in to investigate. She found a young boy in a battered Darth Vader costume. The color had come up from a light chest plate and a plastic lightsaber. She attempted to kneel in front of the terrified kid, more than a little irritated at the layered shirts. "Oi, are you all right?" He sniffed, rubbing his eyes. "I want my dad." "Yeah, I bet you do. Want to help me help you find them?" He pulled his self-tire. "But the monsters." Ace reached into her makeshift sack for one of her Nitro 9 canisters. "Do you want to know what this is?" The boy's face scrunched up in confusion. "Spray paint?" "Not anymore. Now it keeps the monsters away." "Really?" She nodded. "And my friend, the doctor, he's what the monsters are scared of." The boy uncurled, trying to peer around her. "Is he here?" "No, but he's bound to be around here somewhere. He'll fix what's wrong." She held out her hand to the boy. "Name's Ice." "I'm sorry, Ace? We're actually doing Ace?" Yes. What? The girl took out a freaking Dalek. I'm a huge fan. The 7 Doctors are some audio adventures are some of my personal faves, along with 6 and 8. Oh, it's so beautiful. Anyway. "Lance," she grinned, "how about we find your dad, yeah?" Lance smiled hesitantly as he accepted her help in crawling out of the bushes. Ace hoped she was going in the right direction. Lance insisted his dad would pick him up at school, but only had a vague idea of how to get there. The first detour came from a pack of kid-sized monsters that scattered at the sound of nearby gunfire. She briefly considered looking for the shooter, but with a kid clinging to her, she didn't want to risk trying to fire, accidental or otherwise. As she dodged monsters and villains, Ace kept up a running commentary about her adventures with the Doctors, and similar to things in the streets. Lance seemed to assume that they were just stories, but they kept him entertained and distracted from the chaos in town. They only got a couple of blocks before they encountered a pack that spotted them before they could slip away. Ace backed away, pushing Lance behind her. She fumbled a can of Nitro 9 out of the pillowcase. "Ace, get ready to run." She popped the top off and started counting. At 4, she chucked the explosives at the front of the pack, about half of whom paused to look at it, while she and Lance took off in the opposite direction. Ace only made it to 7 before she and Lance felt the blast. She wasn't quite sure how she managed to both stay on her feet and keep the boy from getting knocked over, but decided it was probably a lingering effect from the cheetah plant. She glanced back at the now prone monsters, some of which were still moving. Fortunately, it looked like writhing on the ground in pain, rather than the get up and chase type moving. "Whoa, cool." "Ace, I thought you said it for 10... Ace, what is wrong with you? I thought you said that Nitro line for 10 seconds. "Nobody's perfect, Professor." Ace grinned down at the boy. She grabbed his hand and they continued in the direction she hoped was the school. Their destination wasn't as far as Ace had feared, although she nearly froze when she saw the name on the building. Sunnydale High School. She hadn't forgotten the town, or the girl who had spent some time traveling with her and the doctor. But she hadn't really believed the girl's stories about how she'd known to find him at Forgetgurn's Lake. Now, Ace just hoped she remembered enough to get through the night. She shook off the realization. Inside, she found a group of adults guarding a handful of children. "Dad!" Ace watched the reunion as she followed a bit more slowly. She couldn't help the satisfied grin when she heard Lance's enthusiastic description of her using explosives and scaring off the monsters. The adults seemed a bit disturbed, but Lance's dad looked equally relieved. He managed to thank you before the other adults started demanding information about other children. Ace held up her hands. "Oi! I didn't see any other kids. Would have brought them if I had." Most adults looked disappointed, but others almost seemed angry. Why don't you stay here until your parents can get here?" "Can't," Ace shrugged. "There's still some things I have to do." She ignored the adults' protest as she took off. On her way out, she slipped into an open room. Buffy had never told her how she'd know when or where to meet up with them, but Ace didn't see any problem with leaving a rather large hint. Please tell me that there's another fanfic here. Next chapter. Things in town had only gotten worse while Ace had been escorting Lance to school. The humans are still on the street seemed to be either panicking, or in the case of the more violent types, joining the chaos. Unfortunately, she didn't nearly have enough explosives to deal with all the monsters running around, and her inability to find any trace of the professor or the TARDIS only reinforced what she suspected since the school. If she still had her bat, she might have considered jumping into the fight. The professor had upgraded it into a rather nasty backup weapon, but even if it hadn't been broken, there was no guarantee she would have it now. She remembered some of the places from her previous visit. Although she was less certain of how to get there, Ace could still hear gunfire from over the houses where she started. She thought about how heading in that direction since he didn't have to watch out for the kid. The professor probably wouldn't agree, but a guy with a gun might be rather useful right now. She had barely started down the street, though, before Ace ducked into the shadows by a fence. A group that seemed focused on more than causing general mayhem passed by her hiding place. The displaced time traveler considered her options. She had already discarded the idea of finding a safe place to white out the night. Traveling with and learning from the professor, combined with her normal inclination to confront problems head-on, and the lingering instincts for the cheetah planet just wouldn't let her sit it out. With any luck, this group would lead her to the source of the problem, and she could get everything back to how it was supposed to be. Ace was pretty sure she was lost. She had trailed back to the industrial part of town. She glanced into a few buildings, and about half of them looked either abandoned or as if squatters had moved in. While hanging back for the monster group kept them from nosing her, it also meant that she probably noticed a turn or two while trying to follow them. She could hear what might be the monsters, but the maze of warehouses and weird echoing made it nearly impossible to tell which direction they had gone. A crash sounded from around a corner, followed closely by yelling and a black-clad body flying out of the alley. The ninja flipped to his feet just in time to redirect the charging pirate into a garbage bin. Ace watched the fight for a moment before slipping away, unnoticed by the combatants. She only made it a couple more alleys before she found the pack she had been tracking. Unfortunately, they were coming towards her from the opposite end of the alley, and she clearly saw the moment they had noticed her. Oops. Ace ran, dropping a nitro 9 behind her to take out some of the monsters and hopefully delay pursuit. She ducked into another alley, making sure to avoid the one with the ninja pirate brawl. At the end of the alley, Ace skidded to a halt as she saw another group of monsters to one end of the street. With the first group behind her, she could forget about sneaking past, as the noise her pursuers had already drawn the new group's attention. She took off again, this time with twice the monsters after her. To her relief, a door looked like it had been left open across the street. Ace made inside, slammed the door closed behind her, and almost immediately felt a thud from the other side. Any hope that she might have had to lock the door failed when she realized the dam had splintered from some break-in in the past. The rest of what she could see was a very empty warehouse, with nowhere to hide and nothing to brace the door. With the pounding, she couldn't even set up her explosives to catch them when they came through. Ace couldn't say she was surprised when the door burst open, sending her sprawling and her nitro dying clattering away. She scrambled for the nearest canister, brandishing it as she rolled to her feet. As the monsters flooded inside, she recognized about half as a different variation of vampires. A couple had over-the-top bellicosity look, with a few others looking like Raytex from that punk surfer movie from just about before the Time Store took her to Ice World. Lost Boys? The last to enter what would have been a stand-in for Billy Idol, if it not for the Neanderthal look she remembered from her last visit to Sunnydale. "Back off, bloodbath!" It smirked, laughing at her. "Or what? You'll hate me to death." "I was thinking of something with a bit more whop." A couple of other monsters shifted nervously, and one of them whispered to the leader, who looked slightly nervous. Ace returned to smile as he pulled the top to start the fuse. 10 seconds. 9. 8. As he threw the explosives and backed away, the vampire's eyes widened comically. It shoved its companions out of the way in a scramble to escape. Buffy stumbled as she found herself back in control. The rest of memories confused her just long enough that by the time she spotted and recognized the vampire bolting out the door, she knew she'd never catch up. Great. She watched the confused teenagers wander out of the warehouse. From the comments, they seemed to already be repressing the last few hours. Walking over to the no longer Nitro 9, Buffy picked it up and eyed the canister thoughtfully. She could feel the other girl's memories rolling under her own. Like her, Ace had been pretty normal until her mid-teens, although Buffy had a better home life. Then there was the destruction of school property, leaving her grinning at the memory of an unexplained, exploded art room to go with her own memories of the burning gym. Still, she would probably find out what happened later tonight, and whether anything worse had happened while her brain had been on vacation. Buffy eyed the damage as she walked back to the high school, wincing as she passed a scorched crater where she used one of her own explosives. At least she didn't see any bodies. She still didn't know what had happened, but if anyone knew why she spent the last couple of hours as a teenage time traveler, it would be her watcher. Buffy! She turned, grinning with relief. Giles, what? Are you alright? Kind of wigged, but otherwise just peachy. Do you know why I just spent most of the night with someone else in the driver's seat?
Yes, actually. It was Ethan.
Buffy frowned. Creepy shopkeeper guy?
He attended everything in the store. Anyone who used anything they brought from him changed into what they had worn.
But I didn't. She cut off abruptly when she remembered the spray cans.
You didn't what?
I changed, but not what I was dressed as. I mean, I guess it kind of did. She wore a dress like this once, but it was definitely not some noble lady. Giles looked both relieved and surprised.
Then who were you?
A time traveler. Ace. She was originally from the 80s. She wore a dress like this for a portrait. Buffy's eyes took on a slightly dreamy look. But she had some really cool homemade explosives.
And you used them tonight?
Sure, she chirped, showing him her last canister, all but one. Giles backed away, looking slightly alarmed. Relax. It's just a spray paint again.
Buffy, what all did you blow up?
Just some monsters. They were still moving when I left them, and I scared the crap out of Spike. I bet I would have had him if everything hadn't gone back to normal. She grimaced, clearly disgruntled at the failed dusting. He was already gone when I figured out what was going on.
Well, yes, I'm sure you'll say him next time.
No, you won't, Buffy. Spike is mine, you hear me? All mine. I get the hands of blood like... I'm straight, people. I really am. Buffy shot him a mildly irritated look before turning serious. Giles?
Yes?
Did you see the others at all? I don't remember running into them.
Only Willow. She had become a ghost of herself, and she told me Cordelia, Xander, and Angel went looking for you. She said nothing of your mother.
Mom had some big art thing in L.A. She dropped us off at school on her way out of town, and this is supposed to be back until late Sunday.
What else do you remember?
Some places, a couple of people. She knew about Sunnydale. About me.
Buffy?
I think something bad's going to happen. Something bad, and I leave Sunnydale for a while.
Do you know what will happen?
Not really. I think her memories come from a couple of years after I meet her, and it was all secondhand to start with. I just know I go to some Incan lake, England. Voldemort's lake? She shook her head with a shrug as she searched for where Ace had stretched that note. It had this whole big sword and its stone deal going.
Voldemort's lake?
Voldemort's lake? There's a bigger crossover audience. There's something big going on in this fanfic, and I think I just stepped into a bit bigger world than I ever imagined.
I see. Perhaps you could record everything you do remember.
Like my Slayer dreams?
Essentially, yes.
Buffy showed Giles the note. Like this? She wrote down where I would join up with her. He glanced over the note before handing back.
Yes, like this. Would you like a ride home?
Ace, what have I told you about trying to change the timeline? Professor, she's going to know anyway. I figured I'm just helping out. Wibbly wobbly timey wimey. Come on, Ace, let's go. As Giles guided her towards her car, another thought occurred to her. Is there a town called Perivale?
Yes, it's a small community northwest of London. My father headed a council investigation there, perhaps 10 years ago.
Buffy tilted her head. That sounded like an incident Ace remembered. A bunch of people message?
Giles looked surprised at her knowledge. Crudely put, yes. There were some reports of messages of individuals with yellow eyes and fangs. They found no evidence of vampires, though.
See that episode? Oh, God, survival. I think it was something else.
Oh,
I'm not sure if it was related, but last night I remember I could still do some Slayerish stuff, and Ace thought it was related to some place she called the Cheetah Planet.
planet, not to mention.
I suppose it could have been. I don't think she was entirely sure, but Ace thought it was another planet. They continued talking about what Buffy had remembered. She had no problems remembering what she had done while under the procession, and she thought she could remember some of the chemistry involved with making explosives, but everything else had faded into things Ace had actively thought about over the course of the night. Once home, Buffy cringed at finding the back door open. Fortunately, there wasn't too bad of a mess, as she was reasonably sure she could clean it up before her mother returned. Not tonight, though. Tonight, she just wanted to get the weirdness written down in her journal and get some sleep. Let me rest in peace. Well, my lady Shala, this was pretty fun. I mean, it was nice to see Buffy turn from being the weak damsel in the episode to being Ace. Although, I was surprised that the canisters were all that needed to turn her from Buffy into Ace, since in the show it was said that you needed to buy something from the store. It was everything. He didn't change all the costumes. That's every costume that was mailed into the store. So technically, I don't know how this particularly works, since they each held a particular item. On the other hand, that little plot point aside, this was kind of fun. The spelling, grammar, and pacing of this was pretty well done. The story, though short, worked pretty well, and it felt like a good alternate take. What's more is that this apparently is a continuation of one of the other author's fics, which means that somewhere out there on fanfiction.net, there's a fanfic where the Seventh Doctor, one of my favorites, goes on an adventure with Buffy and Ace, and they have something to do with Voldemort's Lake, which means it might be a Harry Potter crossover. So, yes, you caught my attention, ma'am. You have my full-on attention with this fic. Maybe I might do some more of it later, because I'm definitely curious as to what happened. And if there was any real complaints, no, I can't think of anything really major. Buffy felt in character, Ace felt in character. If I only had two complaints, is that there was no Seventh Doctor. I would have loved to have seen number 7. And I would have had loved to seen Willow, Xander, and even you, Angel, in this fic. Because, well, I love those guys. And also, no Spike time. You only gave Spike 2 lines of dialogue. Shame. Well, I suppose that's all, and excuse me, Mr. User. Yes, oh gods! I had heard that you had seen Ace around here. You wouldn't happen to know where you left her, would you? Actually, Ace was in this fic. But I think if you head off to Sunnydale, you might be able to find her. Thank you. Oh, by the way, you should be careful of that Plessy Dalek you keep. What? I think he's planning a rebellion. Oh no. Exterminate! Exterminate! Ah, shoot, not again. Look, everybody, I'll be right back next week with the usual stuff, and who knows, maybe I might do Always Ranger part of Fandom Fridays. See you then! See you later! Henshin! Come and ride! The decade!